I can't get enough of Randi Weingarten, man. She's been great this week, hasn't she? That testimony. You saw that thing on CNN when the senator from Kentucky laid into her. I mean, Randi Weingarten personifies exactly what's wrong with the government-run school system in this country. And she's not backing down. She's proud of it. In fact, I saw at the congressional hearing last week, or earlier this week, I should say, she was talking about how black students suffered most under COVID. And that's why the teachers union needed to be there to help the black students, because, you know, where would those black students be without Randi Weingarten? Our next guest is Denisha Allen. She's a senior fellow for the American Federation for Children, and more importantly, founder of Black Minds Matter. Because Denisha, Randi Weingarten thinks she knows what's best for black kids more than you. Could you respond to that, please?
Yeah, of course. You know, it was very just alarming at how Randi Weingarten first gaslighted parents. She went before Congress and testified and was very heartfelt in talking about how she really wanted the best for kids. She really wanted the best for black students in particular during COVID. That's absolutely not the case. She and AFT fought to keep schools closed, resulting in the largest learning loss in declines in reading
Yeah.
for especially black students that we've seen since the 1990s,
Yeah.
when we started to test students in America on the national NAEP. And so, no, Randi Weingarten is
No.
not doing what is best for students at all.
Because she's rewriting history here, Denisha. So work with me here to lay out exactly what happened. They shut down the schools and forced kids to go home and learn on laptops on their kitchen table, right? Claiming, as she just said, that children were susceptible to the virus. They were trying to save children's lives, even though literally no children died from COVID during the entire pandemic. And she said black kids are going to get hurt the most by this virus. And then now we're getting kids back to school, and we're finding out black and Latino kids suffered the most during this time because it was harder for them to be able to have the resources at home and the oversight from their parents to be able to learn for multiple reasons. Now Randi Weingarten's asking for more money from Congress so that she can now help all of those children that she claimed she was helping 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Even during COVID, Randi Weingarten and AFT and all the teachers unions fought Congress to give $3 billion in funding to prevent COVID learning loss and to provide, you know, PPE, personal protection equipment for students in schools. Schools were closed. That money still hasn't been spent by district schools.
Yeah.
Where is that money going? The next thing I want to point out, there is a great article that was published today in the New York Times talking about Randi Weingarten. Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, said that she is the biggest threat to society. And that's not an understatement. She's captured the minds of students. She's teaching, allowing our kids to be taught every other thing under the sun instead of how to read and how to do math.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why our black and brown students are being pumped into the criminal justice system. We have the public school to prison pipeline, and it's because of institutions like the teachers union.
Yeah. And by the way, that brings up your organization, Black Minds Matter. Now you are a senior fellow with American Federation for Children. That is the first and foremost advocate for school choice in this country. And obviously, a child doesn't learn differently because of the color of their skin. However, there are socioeconomic issues in this country that do change depending on whether you're in the black community, white community, Latino community. Those are some very real differences. I'm told with school choice, Denisha, that black kids will suffer the most because they don't have any options other than the public schools, that there's nowhere else for them to go. I think your work at Black Minds Matter actually tells a different story.
That's absolutely right. Students, black and brown students who stay in district schools, long term, they're having lower academic gains than students who are going to the school of their parents' choice. Nationwide, about 85% of African American students who are in district schools are functionally illiterate. That means they're graduating not knowing how to read proficiently on grade level. However, there are studies, fantastic studies out of Florida in particular, that show that students who are participating on the school choice program, that's a tax credit scholarship to go to a private school, that they have seen tremendous outcomes, twice as better than the students who are in their public schools.
Yeah.
They graduate from high school at higher rates, they graduate from college at higher rates, and they get accepted and graduate from college at higher rates than their public school peers.
Yeah.
And those are the type of statistics that I want to see when talking about Black and brown students in America. And Larry, you're so right. When students are going to their zip code school, that's inequitable
Yeah.
because we're zoning lower income kids who are mostly minority to schools of high poverty, high needs, high risk. And we really expect for those high needs to break through in education.
Look at
We
you.
need a system of
I
choice.
love you throwing equity right back at them there, but you're absolutely right. That if you're really interested about equity, then don't make kids constrained to the zip code that they happen to be raised in. I know here in D.C., where school choice actually about a decade and a half ago actually was very robust, there are a lot of predominantly Black private schools, parochial schools here in Washington, D.C. So the culture of private schools in the African American community has actually started to grow here. But that's not the same in other cities. And you hear people like Randi Weingarten and the politicians who try to protect the monopoly they have on the government-run schools. They actually have fed this narrative that Black kids aren't welcome at private schools, that it's just for lily white kids from the suburbs and things like that. Are you able to break through and actually educate and explain to moms and dads that they really do have a choice in these communities?
You're absolutely right. And it is making me so excited. On our website, Black Minds Matter, we actually have the first and the only directory of Black founded schools. And what does that mean? That means in order to found a school, you have to be a school of choice. You have to be a private school or a charter school, a home school. And this is fantastic because what we see is a shifting in the narrative. The left always wants to promote Black teachers and get Black teachers into classrooms, and that's fantastic. We want that. But what is more empowering? What actually promotes ultra, folks being um uh in charge of their own lives and in charge of their own directory is actually being a founder, right? Owning your own environment.
Yeah.
And that's what school choice has allowed. School choice and the expansion has not just helped students perform academically and increase in education, it's also empowered the entrepreneur, the education entrepreneur across all spectrums, not just Black school founders, but teachers, especially during COVID, broke away from this broken system of public education and decided, you know, I can do something to help kids during the pandemic.
Hmm.
We saw a rise in micro schools. We saw the Black homeschool community increase. It went from 3% to 17%.
Wow.
And that is what is happening. But it all really happened because of the school closures and
Yep.
COVID. So on one hand, we have to thank Randi Weingarten
That's
because
right.
her impact on education and public school system has really created this wave of school choice.
You're right.
26 states since
It wasn't
2020
deliberate
have
though, Denisha. We got it. We're up against it. It wasn't deliberate though. She was condescending and patronizing, and she truly didn't think that anyone had a choice, but they do. And you can find out more about what choice you have at blackmindsmatter.com. Denisha Allen, great stuff. More to come on O'Connor tonight.